shamanic breathwork facilitator, and he's here today to talk about 2021. Welcome, Levi, to Emergence Festival.
Thank you. Hi. Great to be here. Shall I just take it away altogether?
Yes, you have the full floor. You can take it away.
Great. Thank you so much for having me, Chelsea and everyone. Um, it's great. So many people from all around the world. I love being connected to Loom like that. My friend Maggie there in Oroville and all over the world. This is so cool. I'm actually here in Bali. It's about 10 p.m. So I'm just winding down the night with this astrology talk with you guys. So nice to be connected to you all in this nice morning yoga session. Really beautiful. Um, so yeah, so this is me and this is my face. I'd like to present a little screen share with just some images as I talk, just to kind of keep you engaged. And so I'm going to start that, and I'll go in and out of that. And it has my face on it there. So let's do that. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Let's see here. Boom. Cool. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. You're all good.
Okay, cool. So once again, thank you for having me, everyone. Chelsea introduced me quite nicely. I'd like to start by saying I'm a shamanic astrologer, which is quite different than mainstream astrology. It's not Vedic astrology, though we pay close attention to the stars and constellations. We teach astronomy and cosmology. We have a living, breathing relationship with the earth and sky being together. And it's not Western either, because we also, we use the cosmology, and we also look at things quite differently. So as I talk, you might find some things that, and you might be you may have already been introduced to astrology, and as I say things, they might be a little different than what you're used to. So hope you enjoy that. Our perspective is quite a beautiful thing. I'm trained with the school. It's called Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. And it's founded by my mentor, Daniel Giamario. And I'm currently on the council, the board of directors of that school, making big decisions. We're just a humble nonprofit school that the mission is to teach the magic of the earth and sky, the living magic of earth and sky. And so, yeah, I do many other things. I'm a yoga teacher trainer, a breathwork trainer, and all these things. So hooray for me. And here we go. So I wanted to start with this dramatic picture. I wanted to start with 2020. As we go into 2021, which is my intention here, is to give insights and clarity on what will be occurring in 2021, astrologically speaking, the energies that will be coming at us. I'm not going to be making any predictions, but tell you about the alignments that will be occurring and kind of historically what those things kind of mean. Because, in our school, we really believe the archetypes or the signs are constantly evolving and moving. And we don't do predictions because it's not predictable. Everything changes, and we get a sense of what could be occurring and what it would be like for the individual and the collective because of the time we're in, and we pay attention to that. Though what it's exactly going to look like, we never really know. We were talking about 2020 in our school, and many astrologers were, for many years. We did a summit in 2017, clearly laying out, the dramatic effect of 2020 and the most rare alignment that we're going to experience in our whole lifetime, which was the Saturn and Jupiter joining up with Pluto in Capricorn. And that was basically all, it was strangely the beginning of 2020 until the end of 2020. And so we were talking about that for quite some time. And even though we knew there was something very big, at afoot or going to happen, we didn't know what it would look like. There's, never could guess that sort of thing. Um, Pandemics, restrictions, all that. It's bizarre. So we did know something big was going to happen. So my intention is to fill you in on 2021 and what it might be like. And we're going to get to see what it's going to really be when we're there. So obviously 2020 was an unprecedented year. It was basically this alignment occurred um, in which was nothing like it has happened for about 800 years, where Saturn and Jupiter, they come together about every 30 years. So they all met up in this sign of Capricorn, where Pluto has been moving through since 2008, right around the time when a big financial crisis happened in the United States, happened with the housing market. That was right around that time, 2007, 2008, when Pluto started this entrance into Capricorn. But Pluto can take like 30 years in a sign if it wants to. And so it's like a 200 and I'm forgetting the exact number, about 248 or so years around the whole sky. Whereas Saturn takes about 30 years around the sky and Jupiter takes about 12. So every planet has its own cycle, and that's important to know. So when they meet up, Jupiter and Saturn have a cycle where they would only meet up every 20 years. And so it's rare that they would even meet, where are they going to meet? Which sign, which place in the sky? It's going to be different each time. And that they met up, over that course of time, they actually met up right where Pluto was, which is a very slow moving planet. So the rarity of that is incredible. It's a once in a lifetime, once in many lifetimes kind of occurrence where those three planets all meet at the same time. And so anyways, the energies there are all different and all mixing. So each planet has its own cycle and its own energy. And we're basically, as astrology goes, we're basically bestowed with energies all the time. Everything affects everything. All the things around us are influencing us all the time. And when they're bigger, like planets rotating around the Earth, then that's even more influential in your life, whether you might notice it or not. Like the full moon feels different than the new moon. It's quite actually really simple and practical and somewhat scientific. The moon controls the waves in the ocean and the water of the earth. And the earth is made of mostly water, and so are you. So it's actually quite simple. Each planet has a different energy. The sun is very different than the moon, for instance. It just feels different. So the energy of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter basically created a death and rebirth, composting, renewal effect on the energies of that area of the sky, the sign they were in, which was Capricorn. And Capricorn, to me, has to do with the pillars of culture, society, the most practical, the most tangible things in life. Capricorn is most into those kinds of things. They're like a leader or a controller, a manager, that kind of archetypal energy, an elder wisdom. And so basically looking at as those planets move through that sign, they're composting, rebirthing, renewing everything that has to do with society and culture and borders and government and money and all the things that are very, very middle world, practical, earthy Capricorn. So I just wanted to throw that in there because as we move along and into 2021, we get to see where Pluto is still in Capricorn, but Saturn and Jupiter have moved on. And magically, they moved on almost the same day and met up together, conjunct. They met together right when they moved into the next sign of Aquarius on our solstice in December. So last December, just about a month ago, we have solstice like we always do, which is the end of a sun cycle and the beginning of a new one. It just magically occurred that Jupiter and Saturn connected as they do only every 20 years or so, right there in that sign. It's quite powerful, and to me, a symbol of what's to come. So, as we look at 2021, we're looking at the sign of Aquarius being the main theme. Not only do Jupiter and Saturn slowly move through that sign this year, but also many other closer planets such as Venus and Mercury, the Sun, all of them, and they're all going to be there together, as I'll tell you in a minute in February. So we'll talk about those signs of Aquarius and also Taurus, which is where Uranus is hanging out, which is the kind of secondary or dynamic theme of Aquarius and Taurus. They're in a dynamic theme this year, which we'll go into in great detail. Also Saturn, Jupiter, the squares of Saturn and Jupiter, Saturn and Uranus. We'll talk about Mercury retrogrades, people like that, or they don't like that, or they like to hate that, or whatever. And the planets moving forward, which is actually more rare than the Mercury retrogrades. I'm going to give you all the Mercury retrogrades this year and what their themes are, I suppose, and the way that all the planets are moving forward, like right now, and how long that will take, or how long that will be, and why is that's important, which to me is even more interesting than the retrograde thing that is quite popular to know about and good to know about. And there's this other subject that has to do with the nodes of the moon and Neptune, and they're going to come together very soon, and that's something very good to know about, very powerful alignment. And then, of course, the love story of Venus and Mars, which they only come together every couple of years, and I'll tell you about that, which has to do very much with the balance of your own inner union, the workings of masculine and feminine within oneself. And a big piece of work in our school to identify the archetypes of masculine and feminine and to bring them together through astrology. And then I'm also going to talk about eclipses, which eclipse seasons happen twice a year. There's going to be 4 eclipses in 2021, and those are important to know about because they are a potent, powerful energy. So, moving ahead, how does this work? Oh, I just click it. Okay. I'm just getting up to date into 2021 and technology. It's a thing in 2021. So, okay. So I guess I start with Mercury retrogrades here. Let's just get into that. So a lot of you, if you've looked into astrology whatsoever, often one of the first things that one learns about is Mercury retrograde. Now, what is that? Now, all planets go retrograde. Every year, each planet goes retrograde. So it means basically that the planet appears to be going backwards. The rotation of the planet around in the Earth, and that whatever is occurring for each planet, it's basically slowed down so much that it looks like it's moving backwards, back through the same stars that it was just in recently. And so that effect has, it's a slowing down, it's a reoccurring, it's like a checking back over what just happened, those kinds of themes. It's a everything, redoing, renewing, looking at everything. Retrograde. Now, Mercury is the planet of thought and communication. It has to do with your perception, your cognition, your communication style. So, in your personal birth chart, it has very much to do with the way you see and think about things, learn and teach and grow mentally. It's the mental Mercury, messenger Mercury sign. The god Mercury was the messenger in those stories. So Mercury goes retrograde, or appears to go backwards. It's always moving forward around, the sun and us. And it goes retrograde 3 times a year for about 3 weeks, 3 and 3. So it's quite easy to remember. Every year, about 3 times for about 3 weeks. So it's about every few months it's going to happen. So for us in this year, we're looking at it happening in January through February. I have the dates there for you. The next one's very soon, January 30th to February 20th or 21st. I put in 2 dates here because I'm in Bali and maybe you're in the United States or whatever, and it's going to be a day ahead here. And so you just kind of think of it that way. But it's about that day, and the exact day doesn't quite matter, but you could just imagine that those few weeks, each of these few weeks, is a time when things that have to do with Mercury, which has to do with technology and communication, planning, transportation, they can be kind of backwards. They can be a little hard to follow. They're a little different than the usual, linear kind of way of doing things. And so it's not a bad thing at all. And maybe you want to do things on purpose at that time, like start things on purpose. I like to kind of play with it that way. I was born with Mercury retrograde. It's not a bad thing at all. Sometimes it's when I finally get some work done, like I finally get to those that list. But often when we're trying to plan things or trying to get a point across to someone or get somewhere quickly, there's just a block there, or they're not hearing you, or they show up a day late and because they misunderstood you or whatever it is. And if we can just kind of see that life works that way sometimes, that it's not always so clear and, Western linear to the, on the dot timing, and you can just kind of go with the flow and allow Mercury to teach you about seeing things in a different way, then it can actually be quite a magical time. But anyways, you want to watch out for when you're planning things. Like I've booked flights, for example. I've booked flights on the month before or after, or the day before or after. You just like overlook things. Or I pull up a birth chart when I'm doing a personal reading and I put PM instead of AM. And I don't do that as much when it's not Mercury retrograde. So when it's Mercury retrograde, it just, internet goes down more often. It just seems to do that. So whether you believe that or not, that would be something to look at during these times. One other thing I'd like to point out is that they're all in air signs, and that happens quite often in a year. Mercury will pick up a theme, an elemental theme. Mercury has very much to do with the elements. So whatever element your Mercury is in your chart has to do very much with the way you're seeing things, so like an earthy way of seeing things or a watery way. But air is the most mentally inclined, communication inclined signs. And so we're looking at Mercury really working with the way we see things and the way we're speaking to each other and that kind of stuff. So January 30th to February 20th, May 29th, 30th to June 22nd, 23rd, and then lastly in September 27th to October 18th. Now, more importantly to me is that right now, all planets are moving forward. So newsflash, this is actually a bigger deal. It's more rare to have no planets retrograde at all. Because like I said, all planets go retrograde. Pluto goes retrograde. All of them go retrograde, and it happens quite often. More often, you might have a bunch of planets retrograde than all of them, every single one. We're talking Pluto, Jupiter, Uranus, we're talking Venus, Mercury, everything, even the asteroid like dwarf planet things like Chiron, like Eris, they're moving forward. And that's going to happen until Mercury goes retrograde on the 30th, very soon. And that's only for 3 weeks, like we just covered. And then it goes direct again. And then everything's moving forward for even longer, like another 66 days through April. And so all planets moving forward means full steam ahead, nothing stopping the energy that's bestowed on us, bombarding us, influencing us. So everything that's happening right now, all the planets in their signs are quite powerful and potent. There's no slowing down. There's no going back. It's like full steam ahead 2021. Now, very interestingly, many planets meet in the specific sign that I said is the theme of 2021, which is Aquarius. Many planets, like all of these major, very important planets, meet all together, moving through Aquarius right now and through February. It's actually February 2nd, where Venus enters Aquarius and meets the Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn. And they're all together until February 19th, when the Sun leaves Aquarius and enters Pisces. So we have those 5 planetary bodies all in Aquarius from February 2nd to the 19th, and the moon even passes by them from the 10th of February to the 12th. So we have Sun, Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, and the moon all together in a cluster in the sky, in the sign in which is the main theme of 2021, while all planets moving forward. So that's pretty intense. That's a lot of intense Aquarian movement forward. It's like, it's quite, it's trippy this way, you know, the way that the universe works and shows us these, these clues on what to tune into. So you can tune into that in the sky as in February. You can follow the moon, and it will show you where they all are. Let's see here. So the we can't go backward and forward here. So there's another meeting. So I guess I'll come back to what Aquarius is all about and get more into this technical thing that's most potent in the whole year. Now, Aquarius is where all those planets I just mentioned are, but a couple of other planets are in Taurus, and that's kind of the secondary theme of 2021. And the Aquarius-Taurus dynamic is really what's happening there. So this is kind of a funny, a bunch of words here, exact Saturn-Uranus squares. And so what we're having there is, if you think of a circle in the sky, which, you know, the constellations are around us, you could say, we have that cluster of energy in Aquarius. Now, many of those planets move pretty quickly. The sun's going to move through there in 1 month. That's what the sign is made of. It's made from the sun moving through that part of the season. 1 month per one sign, 12 months in the year makes a full circle. And it just so happens, as the sun's moving through that sign, and Mercury always stays close, Venus is also there, and it's where Jupiter and Saturn are. So it's like that cluster of there. But Saturn and Jupiter are very slowly moving through that sign. And the slower a planet moves, the more important it is to us. Like the moon moves through that sign every month, right? And so we're going to see moon move through Aquarius every month. It doesn't really affect us that much because it's subtle. Where if Pluto's in Capricorn, that's a really big deal. It matters because whatever activates that activates the collective, the global humanity collective. So the bigger, the further out the planet is, the more influence it's going to have on all of us as a whole. Less personal. More personal is the sun stuff, the moon stuff, Venus, and all that. So Saturn being in Aquarius, and anything that touches that or activates that quite matters. Now, Uranus is 90 degrees away, which is a dynamic. 90 degrees away on a circle is, you know, it's a right angle. It's like 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock. If Saturn is at 3 o'clock, Uranus is at 12. And that square angle, that right angle, is highly, I keep saying dynamic. It's a crisis in action. It's a influence that causes friction and something to happen. Something has to give kind of energy. So Uranus is in Taurus. Uranus moves very slowly. It's like 7-8 years through that sign. And they're going to come into exact alignments. And so basically that's the theme all year. Saturn and Uranus, Saturn being in Aquarius and Uranus being in Taurus. And I'm going to tell you what that means. But the exact alignments of that are February 18th, you know, and that's when the moon's exactly with Uranus. And you can't really see Uranus. It's the kind of the first planet that's out of our vision with our naked eye. With, you know, you can see up until Saturn, and then you need a telescope most likely to see Uranus. But the moon will be right there next to Uranus, right at that first exact square on the 18th of February. Another kind of just cool thing that the universe does to show us where to look. It also happens on the middle of June, and the end of December, Christmas Eve. Cool stuff. So those are important dates. It's gonna basically February through December is similar energy. It's all there, but those exact dates you really kind of want to watch out for things occurring. For example, Mars just went into a conjunction, like it just connected with Uranus. Mars just passed by Uranus in the sky exactly on January 20th. Hours after the inauguration. And that's a very, again, dynamic, intense energy. A couple days later, on the 22nd, just when this summit starts, this festival started, Jupiter squared Uranus, and now we're on to Saturn. So, so breaking down what all these things are, the sign of Aquarius is the main theme, as I've said. Is it the age of Aquarius? Yeah, probably. Do these things prompt the age of Aquarius? Probably not. There's bigger cycles at hand. There's precession at the equinox. There's the turning of the ages. There's much cooler things that are beyond the scope of this conversation to explain. But I did want to say that Aquarius is activated big time this year. We are moving away from this Capricorn compost and into this Aquarius kind of new vision. And Capricorn is not bad and Aquarius is not good. Every sign has a valid and equal level of importance on the wheel of the zodiac. But the energy of Aquarius is expansive, particularly with consciousness, particularly with advancements of the way we see things, like technology and speaking, all the mental things. It's an air sign, like we covered. You know, Mercury is going retrograde, first time. It happens in Aquarius. You know, it's just like, there it is. It's starting. Aquarius is where all the planets are meeting, all going forward this February. It's where Saturn's moving through slowly. Aquarius is the archetype of a visionary. It's like an eagle looking down, like a big picture view. It's like the eye behind the eye, the witness self when you're in a deep meditation on a mountain or something. It's like that kind of visionary expander of consciousness. And so it loves the technology. It loves the artificial intelligence stuff. It loves the just the way that the internet, all these kinds of Aquarian age kind of things as people speak about it. And so 2021 is definitely where, you know, more people are on the internet than ever by far. And it's been increasing so dramatically, you know, even since they started talking about the Aquarius age in the 60s and 70s. But, you know, this time period of being alive has been just magnificent in the way of evolution, in the ways of consciousness of humanity and technology, right? And so all that kind of built up to like now, you know. This year is themed with like, here we are, we're on an online festival. I'm usually at a festival in Australia right now. It's streaming live. I think the DJs are at home DJing from their house, you know. I'm here in my house in Bali, giving a talk on astrology. It's a profound, and it's huge. It's a really big shift. And Aquarius loves that. The other end of the spectrum, or the other, 90 degrees away in the wheel, is the sign of Taurus. And I forgot to mention, Aquarius is where Saturn is, 90 degrees away from Uranus, which is Taurus. Uranus being, on the next slide probably. Taurus is the energy of, it's an earth sign as opposed to air. Air I described as mental, communicative, that kind of thought realm, whereas earth is more of the embodiment, the physicality, the senses. And so Taurus is the energy of that kind of total embodiment of senses. It loves the arts and the dancing, the aesthetics, you know, to have things just right. It's a pleasure seeker, an enjoyer, patience, and you know, environment, nature. It's like being really in touch with nature and your body. It also has to do with money. It also has to do with your belongings, and all these kinds of things are associated with Taurus. And we're already seeing Bitcoin go up and that kind of thing. So, in my opinion, the mixture of Taurus and Aquarius is what we're faced with. We're faced with the dynamic between technology and the environment. Like, does 5G destroy things like us? Does it hurt our bodies? Does it make us sick? Does it cause a virus? Does it, um, are we destroying things for human comfort? Are we going to stop doing that? Are we going to transcend our bodies and put our minds into data and artificial intelligence? Are we going to get more to the earth? Are we going to connect with more indigenous tribes, which are becoming more accessible, and that wisdom? Are we going to rebel against the systems that are not working anymore so obviously, or are we going to just kind of let it all go and let it flow and kick back? And I think that's, I think we're really faced with a lot of choices this year, and it's already started and has been, but I think it's coming to a tense dynamic. And these are the themes that I'm bringing up. And again, it's not a prediction, it's like an inquiry. It's like, these are the kinds of things that have to do with these two signs. And this is kind of my take on it, of like what it could be. But what it really will be, we have to see. Though the choices will, when it comes to Saturn, choices have to be made. There's often never a wrong one, but there is a choice that has to be made. Saturn has to do with those kinds of themes. Saturn is structure, form, stability, practicality, the pillars. It's like, it has a lot of Capricorn energy. Though in Aquarius, it causes an influence of like solidifying Aquarian themes, like making technology more available and more practical, more usable, more responsible. Because without Saturn, Aquarius can go way out the other end, and just like I just don't even need my body. I'll just put my consciousness on a computer chip. Saturn creates a more firm structure around Aquarian themes. Though also there's a tension between that. Like, Aquarius is rebellious, and it doesn't like to be put in a box. It doesn't conform. It doesn't like the normal. It doesn't even believe in normal. Aquarius doesn't believe in normal, and if there is such a thing, they wouldn't want to be that, And so there's this normalizing with Saturn, new normal, sure, and that's quite a dynamic, especially because Uranus, being 90 degrees away in a tense dynamic, as I keep saying, is very Aquarian. Uranus is an Aquarian kind of energy. Uranus is abrupt changes, radical shifts, moments in time that only happen once, novel moments. And we're definitely in a very unique timeline. We're in a very unique time of life, wouldn't you say? And so the abrupt changes around Taurus, Uranus moving through Taurus, it gives us like, whoa, Bitcoin just like doubled. Like, what? I mean, some people aren't surprised, but it's like those kinds of Taurus themes. Like, I just expect, like, you just can expect the unexpected, like people using their bodies in unimaginable ways. I don't know. I don't know if you've seen breakdancing recently. It's pretty crazy. New health techniques, new nutrition facts, new, like, I don't know, new species. I don't know what's happening, what's occurring in this evolution, but I couldn't possibly really guess. And that's the thing. Uranus is something that you wouldn't guess or wouldn't be ready for. And the advice is to kind of go with the flow and go with the changes and all that. So definitely things like shifts in money, shifts in the way we have money. People are predicting things like dollar dropping, Bitcoin going. Well, I don't know. I'm not really into that stuff, but it's obviously undergoing a shift. So all the composting of Capricorn last year leads us to, allows us to get into this Aquarius Taurus themed evolution of now. And those dates that I mentioned before um, are the kind of the most intense parts possibly, but it's basically all year, the dynamic of Uranus in Taurus and Saturn in Aquarius. If you have questions, I will honor those towards the end. I'm going to leave a little bit of time for Q&A towards the end. So you're welcome to kind of put that in the chat. I'm kind of just rambling on here. I hope this is helpful. And in planning your year and just kind of getting a feel for what's happening. Another thing I would like to mention real quick is something that's going to happen just, like, geez, what's the date? Like tomorrow? Yeah, in a couple of days, January 26th, Neptune, again, squares like a right angle, like those little arrows there. It's going to square the nodes. And I just wanted to mention this quick. It's a little more confusing or just less obvious. The nodes are a part of the sky, are a part of the path of the moon. The lunar nodes are a part of the moon's path in which it would meet the sun. It's basically where an eclipse would happen. So they're very important aspects. They're very important alignments in the sky. The Vedic culture paid very close attention to those, Rahu and Ketu, they called them, because that's where an eclipse would happen. So it's a really important time. I'm going to share about the eclipse in a minute. But the nodes are those points. And so an astrologer would like to pay attention to those because it's pretty much the most incredible phenomena we can see in the sky is like a total solar eclipse, for instance. It's incredible. So anyways, the nodes are squaring Neptune. Neptune is like fuzzy, dreamy, mystical energy. It's like it causes confusion, delusion, illusion, things that aren't clear. And so that's happening to these nodes. The north node is like a destiny point, and the south node is like where you've already been, maybe past life, if there's such a thing. The north node is where you're going. So again, very important aspects of a birth chart, very important aspects for the collective, where the nodes are moving through the sky. They're moving through Neptune's in Pisces, and the nodes are in Gemini and Sag. So Pisces is very much like Neptune. Neptune is in the sign that it's most like. It's this watery, mystical, healer energy, caring, compassionate, but it's definitely giving this kind of like heart space, heartfelt kind of softness, fuzziness, lack of clarity as we move into this kind of Aquarian year, especially because the nodes are in this kind of more I don't know, like playful, exploratory energy. So this is again a little bit more abstract, but it's happening kind of right now. So things aren't so clear as at least not for me, as we move into this new year. Some people are quite driven. It's going to depend on your personal birth chart, but I would say as a collective, we're being hit not only with this very tense, dynamic Aquarian evolutionary energy, but also this kind of like fuzzy, not so clear energy as well. Cool. So so again, just if you have questions or comments, you can leave them in the chat or raise your hand at the end or whatever. Getting close to that, but I just want to mention these eclipses. Eclipses are very much like a okay. So eclipses happen, in pairs. They always have, like, if you have a lunar eclipse, a moon eclipse, then you also have a sun eclipse, a solar eclipse, and they can be in either order, but they will always follow one another because of that nodal path I was just talking about. When one crosses, it's going to cross the same kind of, it's going to get in the way in the other way. So a lunar eclipse is when the Earth is exactly between the sun's light and the moon shining its light at full moon, and you actually see the Earth's shadow on the moon. So it's like it represents the human, or the collective human shadow being cast upon that subconscious, or that light in the night. And the solar eclipse obviously is when the moon goes in front of the sun during the daytime and blocks out the light of life, the light of consciousness, being bestowed on us in the day. So anyways, the eclipses always bring out the shadows. They always bring out the dark stuff that you can't see. They're giving you a hint or a clue on what this collective shadow is, what to really dig up, what's underneath the surface. And since they happen in pairs, we call it a season. So May 26th, we have a total lunar eclipse. And it just so happens to be in that Sagittarius Gemini dynamic I just mentioned. So there's another theme in the year. So not only do we have the nodes, or having a dynamic alignment with Neptune, but then that's where the eclipses happen that year. So Neptune's almost softening us, getting us into our heart, slowing us down, giving us an antidote for having too much clarity. And so that we can prepare for these kind of like eclipse portals where one can do inner work, shadow work, specifically around Sagittarius and Gemini, which has to do with, that expansion, exploration, the drive, but also the playfulness and the freedom of mind. So you're going to see the total lunar eclipse if you're in East Asia. You're going to see it in Bali, in Australia, and all of the Americas. So that's a very visible total lunar eclipse. That's a lot of area to see it. Whereas the annular, which is basically almost total, but you can basically see a ring around the sun during the day. It's really cool. On June 10th. So from May 26th to June 10th is an eclipse portal where, it's a great time to be in ceremony, to be working with yourself in meditation, to be looking at your shadows. And that's visible more in the more northern regions. The other eclipse season happens also we end the year with a Sagittarius solar eclipse. Oh, I didn't write that there. But the November one that starts this season is Taurus Scorpio. So it happens with the Taurus moon, interestingly enough. So there's certain archetypes themed out in this year. It's not Capricorn anymore. So that's just going to be a partial one, but we do end the year on December 3rd or 4th, with a total, I'm sorry, I didn't write that there, total solar eclipse on December 3rd, December 4th, in the sign of Sagittarius, what I just mentioned, a sign of drive and exploration and expansion. And but it's only visible in Antarctica. So if you've ever wanted to go to Antarctica, it'd be a good time to take that boat cruise. They're going to be very popular at that time. But that's again happening in Sagittarius, bringing out the Sagittarian shadow, which could be, if you go too far with Sagittarius, because it's the truth seeker, it's the trailblazer, it's the wanderer, adventurer, traveler, explorer. If you go too far with that, then it's more like fundamentalist. It's really into like a religion or a certain way of thinking. It attaches to a truth. So what are the shadows of Sag? What are your shadows? And all that's going to be happening around that time. And, because of time, I'll just move on. The last thing I want to mention, which is just, a quick mention, is this Mars and Venus conjunction. Mars only comes in connection with Venus every 2 years, and they do it in 3 ways. In this one, you'll be able to see in the morning sky, which is quite amazing. Mars represents the collective masculine, and Venus represents the sacred feminine. In our school, we very much work with the archetypes of all 12 archetypes, and you have a specific one where your Venus or where your Mars is. We teach whole courses around it, and it's quite empowering to know what you're working with and create inner union through your own archetypes, because not everyone's masculine and feminine is the same. But they come together on July 13th. and you'll be able to see it in the early evening sky. You know, the other two versions of their love story that only happen, you know, it's like once every 2 years, and they go through each of the 3 cycles only, and then they'll repeat in a different way in a new sign. But the other ones, one would only be, they would meet in the early morning sky, so you'd have to wake up really, you know, really early to see that. Or the third is where they're behind the sun, so you don't even see them meet. So this is the kind of the coolest one, where, you know, after sunset you get to see Venus and Mars together in the sky. It's beautiful, you know, two of the brightest stars in the whole sky, coming together, the collective feminine, the collective masculine meeting each other. And so where do they meet? They meet in the sign of Leo. And to me, Leo has very much to do with self-love, radiance, fun, creativity, and all these kind of powerful, outgoing kind of things. The archetype of Leo has very much to do with the it's like the star of a show or a play. You know, it's the star of a movie. It's the queen president kind of energy. Anyways, it's very much calling us to find that self-love, to meet the other, to meet ourselves. And it's very cool because the moon will pass by just the night before, giving us a little, you know, giving them a little kiss, or just shining a little spotlight on their little saga there. So so those are the things I wanted to quickly mention in this short hour. Here's my cool, you know, all my websites and stuff, and those will be on the chat. You can sign up for my newsletter. It'll also be on the chat. And I do a new moon and a full moon newsletter. And I'd be happy to have you there. How do I stop share? All right. Here I am. I'm the guy behind all those pictures. And now I'm going to take a look at this chat and see if there's any questions. First, I want to say I hope that was helpful. Hope that it was clear, and that you find some kind of use out of that. Great. Yeah. So here's my newsletter link. It's pretty big, and all that, and all my Facebook, Instagram stuff there. Okay, I'll go way up here. I have like 10 minutes. Yeah, perfect. Cool. I'm looking at the chat. Conjunction's thrilling. Jennifer's loving this. Chelsea's laughing. Somebody read a really cool book. Yep, Mercury retrograde's no joke. Loving this forecast. Oh, cool. I got some cool feedback. Thanks, everyone. Somebody has their sun in the 11th house of Aquarius, and the moon's in Taurus. Oh, is that Chelsea? Yeah, that'll be a big year for you. That's gonna be, you know, when someone has their personal alignment, like their own birth chart, when planets were in Aquarius or Taurus, specifically in these areas of Aquarius and Taurus, then you will no doubt be activated. Those parts of yourself will be activated this year, definitely. I should say that Saturn moves through Aquarius, it moves through each sign in 3 years. And so it will actually slowly move through that. And so if you're born at the end of Aquarius, for instance, then it'll be activating in the next couple years. But Jupiter's moving through Aquarius too, so it'll definitely be expanding that, because that's what Jupiter does. And it's the same thing with Taurus. If you had planets in your natal chart, like when you were born in the sign of Taurus, Uranus is at some point going to be activating that. And then if they're close enough to be in the midst of this Taurus Saturn square, then this is a huge year for you. I've had some clients and some friends that have that exact alignment, and I'm excited to see what kind of, what it brings them this year. Jennifer is a Taurus, great. Somebody's moon's in Aquarius, so that's very important. Your moon, which to me is where you come from. In shamanic astrology, we see the moon as your lineage, maybe it's past life, early in life, whatever. It's something that you're innately born with. That Aquarius, quirky, out of the box, maybe doesn't fit in with the family or culture kind of energy, is going to be activated definitely by Jupiter this year, if it's not already, and at some point by Saturn within the next couple of years. Jupiter expands, Saturn contracts. Structured rebellion, yeah, exactly. Yes, new species. I don't know. I was just talking. I don't know if there's gonna be a new species. I was just, at some point, you know, things evolve at some point. I don't know if it's this year. I doubt it, but just saying that. That's being dramatic. Um, yes, Moon and Rising in Pisces. Yep, also being activated by Neptune. Yeah, north is in Gemini, and south is in Sagittarius for the nodes. Correct. Somebody was asking that. Let's just double checking that. How long will that last for? Well, I would just say that it's this month. Let's just say that. I mean, they're going to pass by Neptune every 8 years or so. The nodes take about 18 and a half years to orbit the sky, and Neptune will slowly move around. So I think it's like 8 years-ish. But I think it's just, you can say that that's happening at the beginning of this year, and just be safe to say that. How long is Neptune affecting the nodes? How long is Neptune and Pisces affecting the nodes in Gemini and Sagittarius? Yeah, all right. See you guys in Antarctica. It's funny. Okay. Yeah, no real questions here. Cool. Everyone's like saying it's clear, and I'm so great. Thank you. Following me on Instagram. Awesome. So the best way to show your gratitude is following me on social media. Yeah, somebody used to work with a caregiver.
I have a question.
Okay, somebody talking. Okay.
Yeah, it's Jessica. Hi.
Hey, Jessica.
Hey, nice to see you. I am curious about the North and South Node. I understand North and South Node as far as like personal, but I want to understand a little bit more about how it works for the year. So, does it stay in these North and South Nodes the whole year, or does it switch? And like, what does that mean for like humanity? Like,
Totally. Hey, that's a great question. So in a birth chart, it's the same. That's your personal destiny points, your directional flow of the soul, where you come from, the south, and where you're going, the north. And so when you project that onto the collective, then it's the collective destiny points, where we're coming from and where we're going. And so yeah, they take about a year and a half to go through one sign. And I haven't really looked. They just entered, so it's another year. I mean, they're going to be there all this year. Yes. When do they leave that sign? There they go. Yeah, it's not until. Oh yeah. Oh, that's interesting. It's January of 2022. So that's a really cool thing you just brought up, that they've been there for about a half a year, and they're going to leave the sign exactly after the year's over. It's so trippy. So yeah, we're looking at the Sagittarius Gemini theme of seeking our truth, and I think that has to do very much with, it coincides with that Aquarius Taurus tension around, with Saturn and Aquarius, making choices around, environment and technology, and all those dynamics that I explained, that we're just going to have a lot of choices, dynamic choices, tense choices to make. And then there we have that Sagittarius. It's our collective destiny, you could say, or something, that we seek our own truth, that we find our own way, we blaze our own trail, we find our own true north, and we have to sort our own way out. And it just so happens to be that that's where both eclipse seasons happens right there on that collective destiny point. So yeah, and then the nodes switch signs the next year. How about that?
Great, thank you so much.
and they switch into Taurus Scorpio. So even more interesting.
I have a question too about this age that like on December 21st of 2020, how we shifted into this new age, with correlating with the Mayan calendar. Can you talk a little bit about that?
No, not really. I think we have a talk on that maybe. I don't have enough time to get into the ages, but I look at the age of Aquarius as a much bigger turning of the ages. And it has to do with what's called, and you could look this up, it's called precession of the equinox. And what my mentor in school calls the turning of the ages. And it has much more to do with the Aquarius constellation, it has much more to do with the greater 26,000 year cycle that we're in, and the constellational groups that are mistakenly called the same as the signs. And so we're basically, in short, I could say that at solstice, which is a really important part of the year, we're aligned, the sun is aligned at the center of the Milky Way galaxy, which is pretty much, the most incredible part of the night sky. It's the center of our galaxy. The galaxy that we're in is the Milky Way. And when you look at the Milky Way in the sky, you're looking at the center of our galaxy. And so the sun happens to rise and set at that point during the December solstice. And it only happens once in 26,000 years, and it's only during our lifetime. So that to me is more of a sign, for example, that we're at a great shift of consciousness, of humanity, of timing, that we're at the 12 o'clock on a clock, we're at a big shift, a turning of the ages. So how that coincides with the way they see the Mayan calendar and stuff like that, I'm not exactly sure, or I could get into that, but I'm seeing that we're running out of time. But that's my quick answer.
Thank you, Levi.
Yeah.
I don't think Thatcha has joined yet. I think we have one more moment. So does anyone have one last question to ask Levi? I think we have time for one more burning question. No questions. Okay. Amazing. Okay. So thank you, Levi, for being here today. This was amazing. I know that I'm obsessed with astrology. I don't know about all of you guys. I know that there's some astrology people in here. I saw Gigi making lots of comments and things like that. So thank you so much for doing this and being a part of this. I think you've been a part of 2 of these festivals now, and we're so grateful to have your presence. And even when the world's in a state like this, it's still nice to be able to connect to people all the way across the other side of the world when normally we wouldn't be able to do this. So this is incredible for our community to experience this.
Absolutely. A great pleasure and an honor. Thank you so much for having me and listening to me talk for so long. And all my links are there. And please sign up for my newsletter and stay tuned. Thank you for tuning into this amazing, vast system of astrology. And I wish you a great rest of the festival. Very exciting.
Thank you, Levi. Can everybody take yourselves off of mute?